Happy Autism Awareness. Yes, it's me here with Sihle and Taurai, and we are just celebrating Autism Day with the theme Surviving to Thriving. So today we're just going to be talking about the theme that the United Nations has given for us to become aware of what autism is all about and talk about how people with autism are doing. So if you have any questions or you want to contribute, just put a comment, just comment and we'll look at it and we'll probably share it. And if you have any questions about autism, we are happy to answer any of your questions today because we're celebrating autism and we are looking at survival to what? To thriving, how they are surviving and how they are thriving in our present day communities. So that's what we're doing today as our John David Foundation. So let me give you a brief introduction of who I have in the house. I've got Sihle here. She's the social worker for John David Foundation. You will hear from her as well. And then I've got Taurai here. He's a student at University of Zimbabwe studying ethics and education. Am I right?
Yes, civics and ethics.
Okay, civics and ethics education. So he's going to tell us what that's all about and how they too, as students, are celebrating this wonderful day for autistic people. So I'm Sarita. Of course, you're on my live. And I have a child with special needs. He's got autism. He's turning 30 this year. Praise the Lord. And he's had autism all his life. And so I'm here to also talk about him and maybe I'll also share perspective from his perspective what this day means to him. And I'm also an occupational therapist, so that's an added bonus. So we can talk about how therapists do support these children to survive and to thrive in their communities. So join us, let everyone know that we're here. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We're here to, help you understand what autism is all about. So to start us off, I'm just going to let my colleagues introduce themselves and talk about what they understand about autism in general. So starting with you, Sihle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sihle and I'm a social worker. So autistic people are very important in our community. We live with them every day. So as a social worker, we help them, like Tim is saying, from surviving, from just mere surviving to thriving in their own communities, in their homes, and in their families. What do we do as social workers? We try to link them with services, like the occupational therapist, the physiotherapist. We find resources for them so that they are aware of the services that are available to them.
So for example, what kind of services?
Like I said, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, because...
And school.
Yeah, and
Schools, hospitals, doctors.
Yes, so we try to find resources and link them so that they are able to thrive as well.
Okay, thank you, Sihle. And Taurai is a student, as I said, he's studying
civics and ethics education.
Yeah, you can tell us how that applies to autism today.
Okay, so as a student who's studying civics and ethics education, in civics, we are basically covering human-related rights of citizens. So as people living with autism, they also have their rights. In ethics, how do we help them to be sort of ethically accepted in the communities, and also how we can help them and also try to improve their lives.
It's very interesting. I've never heard of this degree, and it's offered at the University of Zimbabwe. Can you tell us a little more? I know you've mentioned you also look at the rights of people with autism, but generally, how does it, how do you help people in general with this kind of degree?
Okay, so as a person who is under the education forgout. We are here to educate people, the communities, on how to receive these people with warm hands and also accept that they are living with autism and accept them for what they are, and also educate on how we can help them, assist them, and also connect them to social workers such as Sishle, and also occupational therapists such as Mrs. Chitapa.
Okay, that's interesting. What about the community? How do you apply yourself to the community in general?
Okay, so I can go in the community. I can try to be like going in the churches, going in schools, and try to educate people on autism. You may find out that autism is not well known by most people.
Yeah.
So we are trying to raise awareness
Yeah.
and let people know about autism.
Awesome. That's a good degree then in that case, because it kind of brings awareness to everyone about who is who in our societies. Sometimes we do forget this group of people because of the challenges that they are faced with. People with autism don't usually talk. Some of them don't talk. They are non-verbal. There are some with autism who are verbal, but most of them really, they've got interactional issues. And they can't relate, they may not be able to express themselves well because of this condition. And sometimes they don't understand how the world functions around them. And that's how autism affects people. It affects one, their speech, then it affects their social interaction, then it also affects how they understand the world around them. So they're kind of like a people group that needs special care, special attention. And that's why these services, the social workers, the students who are studying civics and ethics want to educate us on why it is important for us to be aware of this community. So we are still celebrating. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has a question so far with what we have talked about, or anyone else who wants to say something about autism before we look at the theme.
I think we can put it.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So the theme that United Nations has given, I'm going to ask Tara to just tell us what that theme is about.
Okay, we're saying from thriving to
From surviving
to
thriving.
Yes. Okay. So from surviving to thriving, the United Nations is basically saying that what are the perspectives or the views of related issues in our country from the people of living with autism. Like, what are their views on the state of services?
Okay.
What are they being offered, or how are they being helped?
Absolutely. And from the social worker, I guess we're going to answer that, because I think what the United Nations is really saying is we need to talk about the state of affairs within our communities from the perspective of the person who has autism. So because the people we represent, most of them are not able to articulate how they feel.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're just going to do a general assessment from the way we see things and from our standpoint of some of the young people and children that we support. So Sylvia works for Don David Foundation, as she mentioned earlier. She can just share with us from the children that she's supporting, what do you think they feel? Do you think that the state of affairs or the services that are available, they are really meeting their needs? Are they surviving still, or they are now thriving?
Okay. As Zimbabwe and as Don David Foundation, we've come a long way. When we first met these kids, they were just surviving.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us what you mean by they were just surviving.
Okay. When I say they were just surviving, like you mentioned before, these kind of kids need some kind of special care. It's not enough for them to just live like as normal people, like those that attempt normal people. So they need.
You might have to define normal, because normal is
broad.
It can be, it's broad. Yeah.
Those that don't have special needs like them.
Yeah.
That don't really understand, like these our kids, like you say, they don't really understand what's going around them.
Yeah.
And others like us are privileged enough to have this kind of conversations, but for them it's really kind of different. If you have to tell them, you have to really emphasize what is really going on. So yeah, they need a special kind of care.
Okay.
So when we met them at John David Foundation, they didn't have this kind of services because the services they are there, but usually parents.
Okay, I want you to be clear because you're just saying these kinds of services. What are you saying?
The services that caters for their
Yeah.
special needs,
Yeah.
like physiotherapy,
Okay.
occupational therapy, special needs schools, those kind of services.
So from the children you're supporting right now, you said you found them just barely surviving. What was their state?
They were not going into schools because most of our schools, there are no services that really accommodates them. There are no special needs teachers in most of the mainline schools. So yeah, they were sitting at home, not going to school because they didn't know that there are these special schools that they can go to, that can accommodate them. So yeah, that was the stage. They were not going to school, they were not receiving physiotherapy or occupational therapy or other therapy services that they might need. So that is the mere surviving state that they were in. Yeah.
Okay.
So because of our generous donors and the activities that we are trying to do, like selling these products so that we can get income, we have moved from surviving to thriving because now we are supporting 6 kids. Yes.
Okay, before we go into the number of people you're looking after, maybe we could also just add, if you can, maybe you can tell us one person in particular, not mentioning their name, but from the state that you found them at and how they're doing in school, since they were not going to school before, they had not been assessed, and you guys came in, probably sent them for assessments. Yeah, so how are they doing, in school, for example, just the one service that you've managed to provide?
Okay, so is this really special boy that we met for 14 years. He's now 16. It's been 2 years now. We've been working together with him and his family. He was not walking, and he can communicate, but not that well. So the first point of action is to make him go for assessment so that we can really assess, make an action plan of what he's going to need. So we did that, and then we found a special needs school for him, and then we managed to enroll him there. And then from the assessment, we managed to, the physiotherapy said he needed some kind of walking aid, and then we got that for him. And then he's now walking, and then he's in school. At school, he's encouraged to use his walker and communicate a little bit more with others. And because he was in a secluded area environment, he was not able to socialize with peers of his age. But now that he's in school, he gets to see that there are others like him. He's now a little bit confident. He can now walk. So yeah, I think that's
so he's actually moved here from surviving to now thriving.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think if he was here, he would tell us himself, and we'll be able to see his face. He smiles a lot.
Yeah.
And he's been so overjoyed from the day that we met him to this day. I think now his smile is continuously there. I hear he's talking more.
Yes.
And I hear he's participating in daily activities.
Yes.
Like, for example, what is he doing?
Feeding the chicken, washing his own clothes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes parents can be protective of this kind of children.
Yeah.
But because he now has the opportunity to go to school and see others do that kind of thing, now he's now confident. He's able to do things that he wasn't able to do because maybe his parents were a little bit protective, saying our child, because he's special. But then, because of the awareness that we have been bringing into the community, they were able to let go and then allow him to go to school. So it's a really special story.
Yeah, it is a special story. Just to ask Tarai, maybe you can share a little bit, if possible, about the ethics behind that. What would be ethically correct, if I may ask it that way, if we find the children in that state where the parents or the community is hiding the person from just engaging with the rest of the world because of a disability? What would be the approach? What would we do if we come across probably children or young people who are disadvantaged like that?
Okay, I think the first main course is to speak or bring awareness to the parents to say, because your child is living with autism doesn't mean you have to seclude him or her from the outside community. Because secluding them or excluding them from the outside community may disadvantage him or her.
Yeah.
So you have to bring out them so that they could also receive social services, such as what Sishle has mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing to do is to educate the family. Once we are aware that there is a child with a need, and because they may not have a voice, but suppose someone tells us, it could be neighbors, it could be friends, they may have seen something like that that's happening in our community, then it's important for us to actually talk about it, and that is what is ethically correct, I think, rather than to say, oh, it's their family, we hear of it, but they're just leaving the child. Instead of us as communities to just talk about the ills that we see, it's really important that we step up and probably direct those people to people that can help them. And I think as educators, they can come up and bring awareness to the rest of the community.
Sure.
Yeah. There's an incident that I once came across, a certain child with autism, but the parents, they didn't understand, and they thought this child was labeled as to be someone who is mentally unwell. And so the parents thought, maybe we can't really expose our child. What can be done in order to support this person who's autistic and people are labeling them as to be mentally unwell when actually it's because of the challenges that autism has on their life? How can we support a person that we find in that state? What do you think?
We cannot say someone is mentally unwell because there's also the issue of giftedness in autism.
Okay.
Because you may find out that most of these people have a high IQ, which means how can you say someone is mentally unwell if they have high IQ?
Well, I like the fact that you brought about giftedness and high IQ in people who are special needs, because most of the time, they are labeled. As I'm saying, just because they're struggling to express themselves verbally, and maybe they are flapping their hands or they do things repeatedly, because we know that people with autism tend to have repetitive behaviors. Now, instead of dismissing what they are doing, Taura is talking about be aware that they have a high IQ.
Yeah.
So maybe I will hear from Sisli what she can say about giftedness in autism.
Okay, so one thing that you have to understand about autism, it's a spectrum.
Okay.
It ranges from mild, those that are at the middle stage, and then those that are severe. So you find out maybe the gifted ones are at the lower side of the spectrum. So those are the ones that maybe it's talking about.
So when you say low side of the spectrum,
what
do you mean? Because sorry to really be questioning you, but I just want everyone to have a clear understanding.
Yeah, I understand.
When we say spectrum, what do you mean? And you're saying from low to high, and there are children that are somewhere in between there.
Yeah. I'm saying every person with autism is different.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say you've seen one person with autism and say, I have seen them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they come in different types, everything. So that's those that are at the mild side, they're the ones that can maybe fully function, go to school and do the most of the activities that anyone can do. But then those that are at the extreme side of the spectrum are those that you find that are non-verbal, that are not able to really communicate well, that don't socially interact with others. So what Taura was really saying is what we have to do is really bring awareness on the diversity of this condition.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really different. So you have to really accommodate everyone as they are and try to understand the condition and at what stage they are at. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. It's very informative. So, if you have a child who has been diagnosed with autism, as Cicely is saying, it's not they'll be different from another person who has the same condition, and they may function differently. They may be gifted in a particular area, which you may need to identify closely. Some you can pick it up very easily and say, okay, because of the way they repeat certain things, or because of the way they behave, you might be able to say, oh, they seem to have a photographic memory because if they look at a picture, they remember exactly what it looked like. And some may express that through drawing. We know of an autistic person who was like that, was shown the whole city, and then he sat down to draw. He was non-verbal, sat down to draw, and was able to draw exactly what he saw in the picture. So, and that took, somebody who was observant to say, okay, that child or this person is very gifted in this particular area, in drawing, for example. So every child is different. Every child is different. So if you have a child who is, who's been diagnosed with autism, observe what they do on a daily basis. They could be very skilled in music. So which means you might need to expose them to an instrument. How do you tell that they're skilled in music or they're interested in music? Maybe they hum to themselves. Maybe they remember the one song, right? Or maybe when they are sitting, they're either making sounds, or humming sounds. And as a parent, you can actually identify that your child may be gifted in that particular area. So you can't just see the autism and all those other behaviors or the non-verbalness or even the verbalness, because those who are high functioning sometimes may not really show enough signs, as she's saying. But those who have a little bit of autism might be able to show some clarity as to what they are good at. But I think it's important for every parent to observe what their child is doing on a daily basis so that they can move from surviving to thriving.
Yeah.
So we need to create an environment where everybody thrives, regardless of what condition they have, regardless of what we think is normal or is abnormal. We need to give everyone an opportunity to thrive because everyone must be given that opportunity. So now we just want to talk about the carers as well. I know that sometimes we talk about the person who has autism and forget the carer who looks after the person with the autism. So we want to find out if they are just surviving or they're also thriving, because the burden of care is on them. So I just want to hear from the two what they think about that, based on their experience or knowledge, where the carers of children who have autism survive or thrive. Let me start with you. Do you want to start?
No, you start with sister.
Okay. Okay, I'll start with you.
Okay. So, like you said, sometimes it can be a toll to care for these children.
It can be
a toll, like on the person, on the carers. So
Okay.
they need to also move from surviving to thriving.
Yeah.
So how do you go about that? I think self-care is really important when taking care of someone who's autistic, and you need to know your limits. Allow other people to help you.
Right.
Like for instance, allow you can get maybe a support worker for yourself. Allow relatives to help you.
A support worker to support you, the carer, or the person?
The child.
Okay, the child. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is really important for the support way for the carers to accept help and find help.
Yeah.
So their job is, it gets easier. So I think that's really important for them to accept help, because I know parents can be really, clingy to their child.
Yeah.
Don't allow other people to come and help. So for them to move from just surviving to thriving, they also need to accept help.
Okay, that's good. So accepting help will help the carer and the parent to make sure that they also have moments to themselves to take a break.
Yes.
So even family members, I want to urge family members to support carers with children of special needs, because definitely it can be a burden and it can be really heavy on the person because they don't rest. Because sometimes people with autism, need close monitoring 24/7 sometimes. Sometimes they don't sleep, sometimes they sleep, sometimes they're just they do a lot of little things, especially if they're younger. They can be very hyperactive and need to be watched all the time that they are safe. So carers out there, it's our encouragement that you also survive, not just survive, but thrive. Let me hear from Taurai. What do you think?
Okay, from surviving to thriving. Okay, by surviving, maybe you are basically saying that you're just living. You're not actually trying to improve something on a situation. But by thriving, you're trying to put in work to at least improve either on the services which the child is being given to, or even accepting awareness. And how can you accept help if you're not able to bring out your child to say my child is living with autism?
Yeah, very good. So I think, I like what you said, that you don't just survive just to wake up each day, care for your child, and just not even expose your child to anything. You have to put in some some activities or some strategy that you can thrive as well. So I think it's good advice to you carers that even if you have to go back to school or learn a skill, you can still do that. So suppose you engage a support worker to look after your child for 3 hours, then you can also go out and learn a skill for yourself so that you can also thrive, because you too have skills that you can develop. You shouldn't neglect yourself is another thing. Develop yourself wherever possible. I can give an example of myself. I can say I didn't just survive, being a carer of a child with autism, but I actually thrived out of it because I decided to go to school. So in pursuit of trying to understand my child's autism, I decided to educate myself. So I took advantage of my, lack of knowledge about the condition, decided to go and find out what autism was, not just bare knowledge, but actually taking a diploma in childcare and education to understand the childhood development, which I actually did. And I enjoyed it. I'm like, oh, so there are stages of development that a child must go through. And so instead of me just merely surviving, I developed and started to thrive and understand not just my child, but everyone else who has children in general. And to go even further, I thought, well, let me take up a degree in occupational therapy so that I even know how to support a person who has autism. First, it was for my child, but now I feel it's for everybody. So I'm actually thriving. So I can say I chose to improve myself from where I was at during that time to where I am today. And now I'm even, talking to everyone out there and running the foundation because I want to thrive and I want everyone to thrive who has a child with special needs. It's not a curse, it's not a burden, but it's a blessing in disguise, if I may say. It can be a blessing in disguise. So you can actually thrive with a child with special needs It's not like, you have got no life. You do have a life. You can just learn and understand your child first. And as you do that, you actually thrive. I actually know some parents that have helped their own children by them studying about the behaviors of their child to say, this behavior, how am I going to deal with it? And they ended up, setting up services for others. So that's what we mean that, as we are celebrating autism this month, let's not just merely survive as carers, but let us thrive. And maybe lastly to say, I'll give each one a chance to talk about where they're at with autism in their own perspective, in your own lives. Like this young man is a student, he can tell us about where he's at, how he sees autism in your own way, in your own words, and how you're learning about it and how it's helping you with your studies. And as a social worker, you can tell us your experience, from the time that you started working with these children, how that has helped you to not just survive as a worker, but also thrive. So I think it's really important for you to share that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with Tare.
Okay, from my own perspective, I believe that people living with autism, they should not be viewed as different. They are special. And by special, basically saying that everyone is special in their own way. It doesn't mean that if they don't keep constant eyesight with others or don't actually like being more interactive with the community, that doesn't mean they should be excluded. They should be helped. And also in my own study, I've learned that people living with autism need attention and care. And in order to improve care and attention, we should raise awareness each and every day, everywhere we are. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, thank you for that. That's really good. Yes, let's use.
I think it's been a wonderful journey, and for me, from where I started and to like where I am right now, I've come to appreciate that the more I understand about these people living with autism, the more I want to explore the world, trying to find services and any kind of help that they can get. So it's been very delightful to have a meaningful impact on the different lives of people that we are interacting with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the highlight.
That is so nice. So to celebrate this day, we want to share with you this product that our carers have learned to do to survive. To move away from just surviving to thriving, because what they've learned we've actually empowered them as a foundation to learn how to make this dishwashing soap. And as a foundation, we made this beautiful label. Maybe I can read it out to you. The name of the soap is called Crystal Cleanser Dishwashing Liquid. And it's safe, pure concentrated grease cleaning power that is in there. And there's a statement we put on it, and we said if you buy this product, you'll be supporting a child who's born different. You'll be supporting one of our children that we look after who have autism and other neurological conditions that affect them. So this is our product. It's just new on the market. And please do support us so we can actually bring more awareness, educate more students, do more assessments for children with these needs, and do more diagnosis and support carers even. So please order this product, cleanser, Crystal Cleanser. It's our product by Don David Foundation, and it's very cheap. How much is it going for?
$1.50.
$1.50, and if you want, you can buy for $2, and we give you a sponge. I don't have it here, but otherwise, this is our product. It's just for $1.50, and we're also making pine gel multi-purpose cleanser. Yeah, it will also help clean your home, and as you purchase this product again, you'll be supporting our children with special needs. So happy Autism Day! Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time to listen and to really support our initiative at this foundation. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day and the month. Continue to celebrate autism. Goodbye.